There we go. Tonight is the Faceless Portraits. We have two great panelists, Rochelle Stark and Carol Grealick. First, any announcements? Steve, you've got a session coming up Saturday.
We do. Saturday, the 12th at 9 a.m. We're going to start out with tips and tricks on using bulb setting on your camera and doing long exposures, kind of like why and when would you use that, how to use it. And then after that, we'll be talking about, and it's funny that Rags was talking with Carol about it, about different lighting to use for like still lifes.
Right.
Interesting.
Okay. Regs, anything?
Yeah, so for the general meeting, I was going to present in December to give the club an introduction to Luminar and the possibilities of using Luminar instead of paying the monthly fee for Adobe Lightroom and Photoshop. So talked to Andy today, and he's going to have me fill in the general meeting in February, just so you're all aware.
Okay.
So I'll have some examples and show how the artificial intelligence associated with Luminar can make for some interesting edits and effective edits.
Okay. David, anything? Anybody else?
Other than if you get a chance, if you haven't, stop into the Crooked Tree in Traverse City. We have the May competition exhibit, and it's great, laid out, beautifully done. So it very professional. So I would get in and go see it if you can. And I'd like to thank Rags. He put quite a bit of work into this. Alicia, of course, our exhibits, displays chair, and then Tim and Ann Kennedy, our critique committee, for all their work on that. So yeah, if you get a chance, go in and see it. It runs probably February, end of February, Rags. I didn't have the date.
February 26th. It'll be the same closing as the Guild show, the Crooked Tree Guild show, which also has a number of really, really amazing pieces. So if you're wanting to get out of get rid of some cabin fever, it's a great little road trip.
Yeah, also the wide range of work in that other show. Plan to spend an hour or two, because there's a lot to see there. A lot of great art, a lot of good photography as well from other some of your Charlevoix. Isn't that some of the other Charlevoix, Michigan photographers as well?
Charlevoix, Petoskey, all through Traverse City, though. There's a number of Traverse City artists are in the show too.
Yeah, a lot of nice wide variety of art. So expand your horizons.
Great.
Other than that, everybody keep shooting. I actually got out for 2 drives at sunset. Actually left the house. So
Wow.
yeah.
Good
Been,
show.
yeah, with the cold weather, it's been tough, but a lot of projects work to do. So anybody else? Any other great revelations? News? Okay.
Not much.
Tim.
Okay. Let me get the screen sharing going here. And I believe I am up first with this one, which is titled "The Photographer at George Floyd Square."
All right, give me a second because I have to make my screen smaller if I can. So I can get to my, oh, there we are. All right. So I guess I'm up for this one. So I'm going to read from my comments because for me, it's just easier than not. So I said, the words on the wall draw me in first. They grab my attention and make me think. Then I see the reflection of the photographer in the glass and the repetitive cubes that form in the reflection and on the block wall. the photographer is capturing a moment in time and bearing witness to it. I like the sort of, I don't know, texture or imperfections that the photograph might have. And I think it speaks to the subject. So I really thought it was a piece of our time for the last couple years. Do you want to talk about it for a second? Tim?
Yeah, I guess I could. It is me, if you hadn't figured that out. It was, so I was up there in Minneapolis just visiting my son and his family, and it is literally on the street across from Cup Foods, just a little corner of a doorway in a wall caught my eye. I thought it, in a very simple way, reflected everything that had gone on there. So that's really what it was about.
Yeah, it's good. I like it.
Okay, so next is airport security, Ed Crippen.
Okay, I just a word about how I just love this assignment and how I approached it. I was really looking for how everyone would capture the essence of the individual in the portrait and what hidden meaning they might have, or what metaphors or symbolism might be in the photo. This was just so much fun. And I thought this was just such an interesting image. So given the assignment, we wouldn't expect to see the security guard's face, but you can't see the canine's face either. So it's kind of a double subject matter. And the thing that strikes me about the image is the very limited color palette, black and white primarily, and the lack of texture in the environment. It's real smooth and all the surfaces are shiny. And there are sharp lines and angles everywhere. And so often we think of security rules as black and white, no gray or leniency. And I think this image captures that with those angles in the black and white. On the technical side, the image appears well lit and edited. The guard's clothing, it's a little hard on this laptop I'm using, but when I had it open on my bigger screen, the guard's clothing and tools are all black, but they're all of the texture, all of the items, you know, his walkie, his microphone, his weapon, and all that stuff across his back is really clear. So the shadows don't engulf the detail at all. And there's a pretty clear interaction between the dog and his handler. And I'm curious about what that is. Overall, great image with limited color and texture that really suits the subject.
Next up, looks like it's back to me. This I just titled Family.
Okay, so this for me was a very powerful image, and it's sort of a zeitgeist of the past few years. And I really, the family that is together with the mother kneeling down to light the candle with the baby cradled at her chest, it sort of makes me think of the families who've lost people here. And then you see the rows of the headstones, and you know, it leads you to say their names. So then, you know, you start to read the names on the headstones of the ones you can make out. And then from there, I kind of like, okay, I can't see them all. I started to count, and then like counting as many as I can, there was like over 100. And then as they fade away in the distance, it's kind of like, okay, here you're going back in time a little bit to like remembering like maybe, you know, all the different countless lives that have been lost in the history of it. So for me, it was very, very powerful image. And I also like, it's like a little bit also like sort of, I don't know, grainy or, you know, somewhat. Yeah, so I'll let Tim speak to that a little bit.
Well, yeah, the grain, I did make it that way because it seemed to fit the mood of the whole thing. That is my family. That's my son, my daughter-in-law, and my two grandchildren, although you can't hardly see one of them.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, yeah.
And then way in the back are my daughter and her husband. And again, this was, I don't know, about a block away from the area you call George Floyd Square. And it was just very powerful and moving to even be there and see we stood around for a while and watched other people come in. And it was, yeah, just an amazing experience. And the fact that it was sort of down in its own little space, surrounded by just a neighborhood, struck me as well. So that's it.
Yeah, I just wanted to note, yeah, an all-American neighborhood, and, you know, hopefully not a continued all-American experience there. But it also, the mother kneeling to light the candle reminds me, brings back to memory George Floyd calling for his mama. And it's just, I agree with Rochelle and everybody. This is really powerful. Thank you, Tim.
Yep, thank you all. Next is Family Portrait by Alan Hewer.
What a wonderful captured family portrait. They're just looking at these silhouettes. There's joy, there's affection, there's action in this candid moment.
Okay.
The horizontal lines of the beach and the waves and the wave interference are a lovely textural backdrop to the silhouettes, whose heights are beautifully and yet candidly arranged as they kind of create that arc to keeps my eye moving smoothly through the image. The warm orange and the golden sparkle of the sun really emphasize the warmth of the summer day and the warmth and feelings among family members. And I'm wondering from Alan how much adjusting in the original image was required in post to get this wonderful, really wonderful representation.
I exposed for the background.
Yep.
And my intention was to get a silhouette. And this was actually at one of the beach cleans in, I think, no, well, it would have been probably in September or late or August, I'm not sure. But I didn't have to do a lot of adjusting on this at all, right? Because like I said, I exposed for the background. So the subjects are all, they just naturally were blocked out. If you look really close, you can see some detail in them, but I kind of cut the levels down just a little bit to erase that detail. I did in the foreground on the beach here, I tried to lighten that up just a little bit to maintain some detail in the sand.
Mm-hmm. It's beautiful. Did you know the family?
I did not.
Oh man,
just someone that happened to be on the beach.
Yeah. Wouldn't they just love to know who you are right now and see that? And yeah, they'd pay money for that beautiful portrait.
I have no
very well
idea.
done.
Yeah, I have no idea if they're local residents or if they're from another state or anything. I don't know.
Really nice. Yeah.
I like the movement that's in the frame. You've got the woman sitting, but she's obviously drinking something. You've got the two girls moving. The father looking down. Very nice.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is Carol Grealick's Maker.
Yeah. So this is your daughter, because I remember that mug, the one with the mug too. So
Yeah, there she is. Yeah.
And the bee tattoo. So
Mhm.
so I find this a very soothing image and portrait, and I really like the white opaque bowls against the dark clothing of the figure, and I like her bee tattoo, and then the other tattoos that kind of move my eye up one arm. It kind of circles back to her other hand that has the other bee, and then back to the singing bowls in front, which then starts this whole like kind of circular motion all over again within the photograph, which I think is kind of the same motion she might be doing
Mhm,
in the photograph with the
mhm.
bowls itself. So yeah, so kind of just like a really serene sort of image that I really liked a lot.
Thank you. Yep, the sound is beautiful when she does a sound bath. It's really beautiful.
Okay, next is the notorious Chief Elkhorn, David Fox.
Okay. All right, David. Okay. The subject here, front and center, is wearing an unusual headdress. Since the image is grainy, I suspect it was a small part of a larger captured image of an entire scene. And it looks like the antlers are on the wall in front of the building. Initially, I'm like, what is that headdress? But I think they're on the wall of the building. And I'm wondering, David, did you put that subject there intentionally, or did you move yourself to make sure that those antlers look like that? But they look like they're a part of that mask that he's holding. And I think the feathers off to the side are part of the mask, but it's actually maybe not. Maybe they are much closer to that building. It's really hard to tell. So I think this image is really fun, and it depicts the trickery a photographer can use with, with no editing, no anything, but just the right placement and depth of field in an image. So David, can you help with the story here?
You muted.
Unmute. Yeah, this is shot with an iPhone, and there was hardly any light. So
Okay.
this is probably, I think when I looked in the metadata that it was 32,000 ISO or something. So I tried to get his head up so it would actually look like the horns were actually mounted to the mask.
It does.
But
think.
yeah, I couldn't get him up high enough at the time, and it was getting dark. And but I just thought he had two masks, and this one was the handiest. We couldn't get one of them off the wall inside, but I just was standing outside. We were actually taking a sauna.
Yeah.
And I looked up and I went, you know what? This guy's crazy enough to do it. We'll do it. And we had some fun with it. And I said, we can give maybe Dogman a run for his money.
Yeah. there you go.
Fantastic.
So
What is that hair-like stuff on top of the mask?
it's whatever the hair was. He has several African masks. This gentleman had traveled to, I believe, Africa.
Uh-huh.
And so this is carved out of ebony. So I think it's ebony wood, some kind of African wood.
Mm-hmm.
And of course he's got, those are pheasant feathers, I believe, or turkey feathers. I can't really, I'd have to look at them closer, but I just thought it was, when I saw all the other things going on, I just thought, you know what, let's give this a try. And I know it was no face, but since it's the mask, he still remains incognito. So he is out there in Leelanau County somewhere. So beware.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are those feathers? Oh, you don't know this person.
I do know him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Are the feathers attached to the wall or to the mask?
To the mask.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all part of the mask.
All right.
So this is the first time I'm seeing this, because we had a little bit of like a hiccup, and I just got sent just my photographs. So I'm seeing whatever Carol critiqued for the first time. And so, yeah. So it's like, oh, I'm back in Finland or Germany in the sauna, because it's exact, with so it's in Leelanau. Okay. But yeah, it's very, I mean, I figured he was in the sauna, and the elk horns and stuff like that remind me very much of like my Finnish friends who you go to the sauna once a week when they fire it up and everybody's in it.
Super fun. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a unique location, and spend, a certain amount of time out there. And yeah, and the graininess in that is And I even pushed the texture on this because I just sort of wanted this rough look on it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's
So
great.
that's the
A lot of
story.
fun.
Yeah,
Thanks, David.
I wanted to have some fun.
Okay, up next is Maker Number 2 by Carol Greeley.
Okay, so I like this one. I like the artwork that's kind of next to the artist. I like that the artist has the tools of her trade in her hands. I kind of the texture of the clothing and the necklace and the ring all gives me a hint to her personality. The art showing what her work looks like, so you get a perspective of what the artist's work is like. The yellow of the painting with this sort of cluster of greens and blues are sort of repeated in the cluster of the green paintbrushes and the metal tools. And the photographer gives me a window into a part of the subject's life that I kind of like. I like, here's your little like clip or glimpse of somebody's reality. So
Mhm.
I thought it was very nice.
Thank you. It's actually my son, and he is the
Oh,
he
okay.
is the artist, but yes, and both of my kids unconventional as the day is long.
Yeah, and is this the work that's he has a piece in the Denos right now?
Correct, he does. Yeah, Rochelle, he does. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. Very interesting. I thought I didn't think it was your daughter because there was no tat, and I wasn't really
Yeah.
sure if it was a guy or you
Yeah.
know what I mean. Interesting. Okay,
Yep.
good.
Thank
So
you.
yeah.
All right. Next is Painting the Cafe, Ragnar.
Okay, Rags has captured quintessential Traverse City, wine, the commons, coffee, patio, and the Crooked Trees Paint Grand Traverse. The subject is well placed in the left third of the image with that clearly often used easel. It's got paint all over it, holding her canvas. The quiet of the artist's concentration for me is in contrast to the likely noisy activity across the street on the patio. The shadows of the trees in the later afternoon sun there to the lower right almost emanate from the painting, so my eyes are drawn to it. The artist is plainly dressed, allowing her canvas and the scene with all their color and activity to shine. It's really a well-composed and lively, colorful and celebratory image to me of our area in Northern Michigan.
Okay. Next up is Rags again with Painting the West Bay.
Yeah, I like the composition with the rows of grapevines and the shoreline as a visual backdrop of the artist's subject matter. And then with her standing in front of it, we're able to look over her shoulder and kind of watch her creative process taking shape. I like being able to see the palette below that she's using and the colors. And then above sort of the foundation of the painting that she's starting to build on the canvas. And I like where she's placed in the photograph and all the details that are in her shirt and her hair and her hat. So I think it's a lovely portrait.
Yeah, like that too.
Rags, you want to talk at all about it? Or you want to add to it?
Well, I'm very honored. You guys both did a wonderful job of describing my artistic intent with both those pieces. But the idea was, again, I knew the photo assignments for the year, and this was the one that kind of stuck out. How do I do a faceless portrait that I feel like has some energy? And so I was tackling that all through the summer, and this was Paint Grand Traverse, and yeah, I felt like it would be fun for the viewer to see the energy that goes into the art that goes behind plein air or outdoor painting. And hopefully I capture that and you can enjoy it.
Very nice. Up next is Ann Kennedy's Partners for 56 Years.
Wow, Anne has really captured a poignant image here, especially with that title. So I think black and white was just an excellent choice. It highlights the texture in the clothing, in the aging hands and the shine of the pistol. The arrangement of the items are on the table, and the hands and the gun keep my eyes moving throughout the image. The focus is sharp throughout, allowing us to see on, at least on my big screen, to see age marks and wrinkles and hair on the subject's hands, and the worn finish on the butt of the gun and on the barrel. And the man holds the weapon with real care and I think affection. It's in the title though, that cements that relationship to me. Partners for 56 years. I think it's a wonderful portrait and it really leaves me thinking about those 56 years and how young he was when he received the weapon and what adventures he's had with that weapon throughout the years. Nicely done, Anne. Anything to add?
Thank you. The gun was given to my roommate when she was 19 years old from her grandfather.
Oh.
And she's had it that long time. And they lived, her grandfather had a ranch in Northern California or someplace in California. And she used it in the beginning to shoot rattlesnakes when they went for hikes.
Yeah. And I apologize to your roommate because we make assumptions about subjects based on stereotypes. And I try really hard to use neutral language and subject and they, and I didn't do it here. And
That's
so,
okay.
Yeah, it's lovely, lovely image.
Thank you.
I'd love to see more in this series. This is very cool, Anne.
Thank you.
Next is Popcorn by Bill Mumford.
So this one is like, okay, this must be the worst job at the fair. It's his arms and hands and face and eyes and head are all protected from the heat and the steam and the molten sugar that would probably burn him. But yeah, kettle corn is really so delicious and I'm glad he was up for the job. So that's good. So, but anyways, the fair goers are lining up to purchase their favorite treats and this photograph captures everything about it, the smell, the heat, the people, the hustle and the bustle. And I think just everybody trying to escape a little bit of the heat of the day with drinks and snacks, but that poor guy. I like all the detail in it too, like the kettle corn where the two tubs that he's cooking it in, the black ore that is kind of like been used, you can see that there's like a pail down at the bottom that has all kinds of texture on it. So yeah, great portrait, and it just brings you right there. I think I sold lemonade at fairs, and that's the second worst job because you have to fight the bees the whole time as you make the fresh lemonade. So anyways, I love it. And so where's he at? Bill, you want to say anything?
Yes, the background, I didn't want to blur it because I wanted to show that it was kind of a festival atmosphere, but it came out a little bit too bright and prominent and was distracting. So I used a vignette around the popcorn to, kind of darken that. And it really worked, I think. You can still see the people in the background, but they don't overwhelm the foreground.
Yeah, it really makes, you really bring it on him, the focus on him by making that a little darker for sure.
Nice choice.
Yeah, I think I know the guy with the bullseye on his front of his t-shirt.
See,
Okay. Then up next is Tall Grass by Rochelle Stark.
oh no, that's got the wrong title on it.
It's got
Sorry,
that's all right. This one's untitled.
my mistake.
Okay.
Really a creative portrait here. And so it really took me a moment to find eyeglasses and the mouth. And then once I found what I thought were eyeglasses, and then I was able to identify the hair and the neck and so on. Really creative. So the other thing, I'm looking and trying to figure out what's obscuring the face. Is it wavy glass? Is it like a funhouse mirror? Is it some sort of plastic or flexible? It looks like it was folded up and unfolded, whatever the material is. But I love the varying levels of transparency or translucency, I guess, where sometimes the flesh color really comes through, and other times what's behind it is completely obscured. So it depends, you can look past that, whatever that is that's filtering, and really see a face, or you can stop before you get there and just look at that material and just see an abstract image. It's great. I really enjoy, as you know, abstract images. And I wonder if the photographer, and I think we talked, Rochelle, it's a self-portrait, and I'm wondering if that was an experiment or any sort of message about alienation or hiding, or I'm really interested in how you captured that.
Okay, yeah, it was a little bit of both. So I knew we had to do this. I'm not really big on taking other people's portraits. I'm not a street photographer. That is not my bag. I can't get up in somebody's face and really do that to get something that's super interesting. So I decided, okay, it has to be me. But, and then I've been by myself a lot, and you have a lot of time to contemplate and sort of compartmentalize stuff. So that was kind of like a little bit what I was getting at. But yeah, it was just like I taped up some bubble wrap and shot through the bubble wrap. And it happened to be like big bubble wrap. I did it with little bubble wrap. I did it with big bubble wrap. I did it with a couple different things. And yeah, just like hanging from the door, from like the frame of a door. And so I like this one the best, because you could make out like, here's lips, but they almost look like they're not in the right place. And here's an eye. So yeah, that's what it was. And it had a little bit of that kind of like, I don't know, milkiness to it. So I liked it and went with that.
With that spot, that squarish spot along the right, the far right side, along the edge, right in the middle, almost looks like, gives it a kaleidoscope type look. It's really, it's great.
Thanks.
Okay. Next is the painter, Cecil Thomas.
Okay. I like the sort of like the triangle of the sand that kind of moves you into the photograph, and you have the water, and then you have the shoreline, but then her umbrella sort of like dissects the image and brings you back to her. And it's sort of like shading the artist who's, from this lovely setting sun that she's trying to capture. And then the photograph has sort of this warm glow of the golden hour. And she looks like really deep in concentration trying to capture it. And it's like, it seems like a long day. It seems like she's had a long day and she's trying to capture this image at the end of the day. And I like you're able to see her work, but yeah, I think the umbrella and her being like so much taking up so much of the frame really works really well.
Mhm.
So I don't know where Cecil is.
Anything else?
Oh, there he is. Cecil, you want to add to it?
Okay.
You might be on mute.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments.
Yeah, I think sometimes I think subject matter and getting and having an eye sometimes is the hardest part. And so that's what I like to comment on. And I think like you did a great job.
Thank you. It looks like Rags and I had the same idea. I was going for a painterly effect of a painter, and it was getting pretty dark, and you're correct, she was really hurrying. But I like the idea. In fact, it was so dark, this is an HDR image, and I had to do that to bring out the detail. And anyway, it's interesting that Rags and I were on opposite sides of town with the same idea. This was
Yes,
my
sir.
neighbor. This was my neighbor, by the way. So this was also the Crooked Tree event.
Oh, nice. So you know Sue Barman then. That's awesome.
Who knew? Yeah, Sue's my neighbor.
I love the complementary colors in this. That color mix. is
Yeah,
just
me too.
You couldn't pick a better, you couldn't plan it, I think, that good sometimes.
Mhm.
Yeah,
You
the
know?
orange
What do
on
they
the-
say? 1 in 1,000?
Yeah.
Yeah, the really orangey glow to her shirt and the orangey glow in the water and the sky. Yeah, it's kind of perfect.
Really is. Okay, up next is Rochelle again, and I believe this one would be tall grass.
Yeah.
This is tall grass, great. So this faceless portrait, perfect in black and white. And so that limited color palette really helps us focus on the shadow and the outline and the texture of what appears to me to be some, of course, not knowing the color, but what it looks like is really dry grass, grass and other growth that's drying out. So maybe maybe toward the fall. And I look to that barn and I wonder if it's part of an old homestead. Is it an abandoned barn with the house long gone? Can I see that door open, half cracked open? Can we get behind the row of vines and see what's in there? So with all those questions in the back of my mind, I come back down to the great outline of that silhouette. And I start to think of the silhouette as having on some sort of a dress or a ball gown, and with, hair done up, and all the other grass looks really rough, but with that dark shadow, again, on a big monitor, I can see kind of that the grass and flowers winding around, adorning the dress and making it look really frilly. It's beautiful. And so then that pulls it together to me, and I wonder who this person is and why they are there. And it doesn't have anything to do with all the questions I had about the barn. And all of that is emphasized by the portrait orientation as opposed to the horizontal or landscape. Really nice, Rochelle. Where
Thank you.
were you?
Actually, Tim and I did like a little thing up here on Old Mission. So there was like this barn that I wanted to get to, and we went traipsing around, and I guess what I liked about it, I've always liked like Andrew Wyeth stuff, and so that kind of gave me that feel. And I like that the grass in the shadow really had like detail, and the rest of it was kind of like not
Ye-
not that important.
Right,
But I like that-
nondescript.
Yeah,
Mhm,
nondescript. So that was kind of like the feel that I kind of liked about it. So
mhm. Where on Old Mission is that barn? Do you remember?
it's on Cropa.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, it's on Cropa. And it had like a few different things going on, and I couldn't get as close to the barn as I wanted to because it was really tall and we were mounting around and stuff. I
yeah,
wanted to get up close and look at what was in the door or in the window, but it never
for
happened.
real, for real, yeah.
The first thing I saw when I saw this photo, the first thing I thought of was a spirit fleeing the.
That's good.
Oh, uh-huh. A portrait of a spirit, really nice.
Okay, next is Waiting for Grammy by Alicia Erickson.
Okay. So I think the light in here is just really lovely. It just kind of like gives his hair and his skin and his shirt like a lovely glow. I like that you can barely see his face in the reflection of the window. Like there is a face there, and on my computer when I looked at it, but you can hardly really see it. I like that the curtains and the windows frame him. I like that, the anticipation is high, and I like that he's brought some toys to wait it out. I like that he's on one side of the window and that his little colorful blocks are on the other side of the window. It seems to be like the two colors set against this sort of gray, dreary winter scene. And so, yeah, I think it's a fun portrait. Alicia, you here?
Yeah, thank you. He loves it when people come over, and Grammy is like, the person. But yeah, the light was really great coming in the window.
Yeah, I like that soft, natural light. It just really like does wonderful stuff, and it looks really, really, really nice.
Thank you.
Okay, now we move to the open category with Cry for Help by Bill Mumford.
Yeah, Bill, this is an arresting image. And when I look at it, I can't help but think, how many people on the planet live in such desperate circumstances. And I look at the, I think it must be on, it looks like Eastern Europe to me, and I don't know if that's a stereotype, but I'm seeing that beautiful patterned scarf that's tied tightly around what I presume is a woman's head. And there's her jacket, and a little flowered piece of a flowered garment sticking out there. Leaning up, almost leaning up and pushing into the cup, and perhaps her only source of income. And I feel I'm assuming she's old again, and I'm feeling the discomfort in knees and hips as she's leaning on those paving stones, hoping for a gift. And I'm wondering if you made a conscious choice not to submit this in the faceless portrait category, because it would have been, capturing a person in such a vulnerable situation would have, that would have required some real thought about doing that. So I'm interested in where you captured this image, and if that was a conscious choice of yours not to submit in the portrait category.
Well, you're correct in that this is taken in Europe. This is in Rome, and the
Okay.
reason I didn't enter it in the category is that it was over a year ago. But I did submit it with the intention of faceless. But when I came across her, she just stopped me in my tracks. I just couldn't take my eyes off her, and ended up giving her a nice donation. But just really arresting figure. And it was very quiet and not many people around, so she wasn't very successful in her pleas.
Was she leaning down like that, and did she stay down like that? Was she rocking? Was there,
I was in that area for probably 10 or 15 minutes and I never saw her move.
boy, this is one that really is poignant, and it sure speaks to us as human beings. Very nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
And next we have Amorphous Atlas Shrugged by David Fox.
Okay, hang on a second. Mine are a little bit. I have the waterfall. Oh, there he is. Okay. So I like the silky folds of the fabric that are soft and fluid, but show the angular forms underneath of the elbow, knees, and feet. I like that the figure is set against the stark, dark background of the stage curtain. I like his body forms this exaggerated curved shape that brings everything under tension and moves your eye from his head to his feet and then up again, following the long curves of, I'm saying his, could be anybody, his back. And then I like it a lot. And I thought it could have been a portrait too. I mean, like sort of like an occupational portrait or something like that. And I don't know, the only thing I thought is maybe at the top, you could lose some of the, a little bit of the black, but I don't know. That's, that's not really that big of a deal. So Tim, do you want to speak to it? Oh, no, it's David.
David's.
Yeah, I was almost going to go for a square, but I like to keep enough negative space. And with the background, that wood floor being at the lower third, I like to, and it gave some headroom. And when I saw this, I put it in the open category because again, it was shot several years ago. And to be fair, I wanted to, put it in the open category. But this really struck me. Dorothy Eisenstein's dance class for NMC was doing one of their shows. And, they come up with some pretty creative stuff. But when this guy popped up, and if you saw the sequence, I actually have been working on turning these still photos into a moving sequence. It just floored me. It was one of the most creative things I've seen in a long time. And he really produced some amazing, different. He's got one where his head's back and his arms are back, and it's another striking photo. But it's funny because when I read the theme for this is the first photograph I thought of. I didn't even think of anything else. This like bang, the minute I read that we were going to have a portraits with no face, that popped up in my mind just instantly. So
yeah,
pretty amazing dancer, actually. He's a young gentleman and very creative.
Alicia said it reminded her of a statue. I mean, when I first looked
Yeah.
at it, it reminded me of like the Thinker, Rodin's Thinker or whatever a little bit. So yeah, it's really nice. I like that folded stuff too. I like that where you can see the form, but you have all this other stuff going on.
It's funny, I turned this into black and white thinking it might really do it justice. But the one thing it did is it removes that blue in his abdominal area. And when you take that out, it just, something drops out of this image, and you need all that detail in the shades, especially of him. In his contrast against the, like you say, the black background and then that floor, you've got this structured, horizontal lines. And then you have the amorphous figure. So yeah, it really struck me. Like I say, it was so funny because when I saw the theme, I didn't even have to think. This was the first image. I just immediately was, I got to go get that image.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay. Now we have Boardman Ice and Snow by Steve Engel.
Okay, so Steve once again slows us down and brings nature to us. The smooth, really dreamy water with its white reflections is in contrast to the sharp snow crystals and the ice down on the lower edge that kind of rings that evergreen. In a upon closer examination, though, I think all of those reflections are smooth, but if you look really close to the edge of the ice, they become really sharp. They're almost like columns. And just given that I'm thinking about nature, that I thought about the Northern Lights if they had a green cast to them, but a really lovely. And the shape of the snow for me brings to mind maybe a creature paddling in the water with the head and maybe an arm there in the upper left and a leg and body in the lower right. So this is the sort of scene many of us walk by weekly, if not daily. And it really takes an effort to stop and see. And I appreciate that about this image. Steve, where was this?
This was on the Boardman River near the kayak and canoe launch.
Oh, yeah.
At what is it? I think it's a Forks Campgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I go down there three or four times during the winter and just kind of see what I can find down in there. And in the springtime, there's usually some wildflowers down in there too. So it's just a pretty place to go, and it's kind of relaxing to listen to the water. And
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to kind of show that relaxation in the image.
Sure did. Sure did. Thank you.
Next is David Fox with Buttermilk Falls.
Okay, so I think water is challenging. I think you have to find the right shutter speed, and then you have to find the right format. Do I do it like as a landscape, and then you have to find the right location, I think. And waterfalls seem to be difficult to get a good location to shoot them. They're usually kind of remote, and I don't know. But I think, you ticked all the right boxes on how this was done. And I really like it's like a lovely fall waterfall scene, with the green of the trees sort of echoing the green on the surface of the rocks. And then the narrow waterfall at the top, kind of like with its milky white water sort of flowing down the rock face and leading into the image of the pool at the bottom. And yeah, so it's very nice. So you have a question, David, of where is this? And everybody likes the warmer colors.
This is in New York. I was out, I think it was September or early October, went to a workshop, Ron Harrington. And when I was driving back, I had time, I had to hot-foot it out there. But on the way back, I thought, well, I'll catch some waterfalls. That was one of my, things I wanted to do, and try to catch as many waterfalls as I could. What's interesting about this picture is if you saw it the way I initially shot it, you didn't see any of these leaves in the rocks that are around the water. And it's actually an overcast day, and people will say, well, you normally only use a polarizer on a sunny day. But there was a black gentleman, African-American gentleman, and he had a camera and he was doing some shots himself, but I had set up a tripod and I was shooting, and all of a sudden I realized he's standing behind me and he goes, how come I'm not getting that image? And So I showed them the polarizer, and what it did is it removed all the glare in those rocks and brought out all those leaves. And without that, it was just this big glare, and you really didn't see the separate water, cascading down the separate streams of it.
Nice.
So it was, one of those days, overcast. I didn't think I'd really get that much of a image. Actually, the colors here look a little muted. I thought when I outputted it that I put it out as the proper color scheme. But anyway, it was sort of a learning experience for this gentleman. And so it became a teaching experience for me. And he was like, well, I'm headed right to the camera store. And I said, yep. I said, remember, looking into glass, I says, it doesn't have to be overcast. Polarizers are great for removing glare in many instances. So I said, try it without, try it with, until you get familiar with how it really works for you. So, yeah, I had a lot of fun because I zigzagged up and down New York and then Eastern Pennsylvania, trying to shoot a lot of waterfalls. So it was a lot of fun.
I have one last question, David. So it's sort of like, I don't know, I just like zoomed. I think waterfalls are hard. You tend to like, oh, let's get in as close as possible because the waterfall is like the coolest part of it. Do I give it like a place, do I come out a little bit more and give it like a, sense of where it's at? And so just seeing it as like a little image, like in like all of the images that I got, it was really like cropped in. So there was no water, very close to like very little water at the bottom, and each of the sides were drawn in a little bit. And then it kind of gave this effect, this snaking effect, a lot. But yeah, then I was like, okay, but then you lose the sense of where it's at. So just for like your own thoughts.
Well, one thing off to the right, if you look, there's a stone
Wall.
wall there, and there's a pathway.
Mm-hmm.
And there was several groups. There was 2 buses of people and they were walking up, starting to head up there, and they were fairly strung out. Some of them were like walking in groups of 2 or 3, but there must, but 30 people got out of each bus.
Ooh.
And then really on the other sides, and then there was quite a bit of water. There's a pond there, almost a lake. So it really didn't add anything, and I wanted to get rid of the people. And I think if you had the original image, you might almost see somebody's feet right up in where that trail goes up there about 2/3 of the way, and it makes a little turn to the right.
Okay.
And there were people up in there. So I had to work fast, and being overcast, it was really tough. And that's where the most color was right in along the waterfall there. This is where I wish I'd have maybe had a drone. I would have liked to have been up higher because this waterfall snakes way up. And when I walked back further, you could see more of that, but then I was getting into cars going by, and there was quite a few people there. So I had to work where I was.
Okay. Yeah, that's always like, what do I have to eliminate to make it look halfway decent?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Okay, next up is frozen Boardman grass. Steve Engel.
Oh, so here is another of Steve's really striking images. This time though, that grass, it almost looks like it's frost that's formed and not snow that's accumulated. The crystals are so distinct and sharp. And we see many of those same dreamy reflections. And again, if you get close to the base of those icy columns, you can see some real sharp and clear reflections right next to them, and then they smooth out and become more dreamlike. And so without, when I sat back and looked at this, without any reference for size, I could almost imagine those as being tall columns or really tall trees on the edge of a cliff, and being able to take a paddle in there with a kayak or a canoe. And maybe I can't imagine it as much as wish I could. It's really an engaging scene that way. And that height is really emphasized by, again, this portrait orientation of the image. But both of these are just so peaceful. And I know Steve said that's what he was hoping to capture. And I think it was really successful. Thank you, Steve. Anything to
you.
add?
Yeah, every time I do these, I think of it as like trying to keep your toes out of that icy water. And so doing the long exposure smooths that out and tends to make it look a little bit like ice. Smooths the water out. And yeah, the peaceful part was part of my intentions. This one was done with my 150 to 600 with two 2x teleconverters connected to it. And I was shooting across the river, kind of upstream from where I was. And it was interesting, to say the least. To get the motion, and still, because some of that grass is in the water, and so the water tends to make it shake back and forth and move. And so I wanted
think
the
I saw
long,
that.
yeah. So I wanted the long exposure, but I wanted the grass to hold still as well.
Nothing like a challenge.
Indeed. Sometimes you have to embrace winter, though.
Every year here we do.
Whether
Ready
we
or
like it or
don't.
not.
Uh-huh.
Okay, up next is Ann Kennedy's Heritage.
Okay, I think this should be in the portrait category. I love it. This is a great portrait. It says, it gives me a glimpse into the subject's life. I like where he's placed in the frame, and that he's set against this blue sky, which seems to lighten around his face. The details in the headdress and the hair, the beaded necklace, and the shirt with its silky ribbons that adorn it works very well. I don't need to see his face. I can imagine him as a respected elder with his distinguished gray hair and beautiful headdress. I might have liked to seen the very top of the feather, but that's getting, kind of picky, but that's my only comment. Yeah, lovely. I think it's a lovely portrait. So is Ann here?
Thank you. It was over a year old is why it's in this category.
Okay.
It was at the Cherry Festival when they had their powwow a
Okay.
couple years ago.
Really nice.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah,
Okay.
really nice. Because it's sometimes hard to get, I don't know, maybe, well, for me, because I use my camera a lot, so I would have to get very close to him to be able to get that. And so that's very, that's very challenging, or it is for me anyways, to do that.
Well, there was lots of people around.
So he didn't notice you.
Okay, then we have Light Angel by David Fox.
Oh, what a dynamic, incredibly dynamic image. This just explodes in front of us. And that subject front and center in this angel brings to mind the angel in the Christmas story, and blowing the red trumpet in the sky. It's really, really dynamic and has a ton of energy. The strings of lights, I don't see it here again on my little screen, but they almost look like twists of embroidery floss. You can see the fibers twisting, and then the dots of light remind me of little French knots on the ends of the of the fibers in the embroidery floss. So it's just a really beautiful, just an exciting, energetic image. And I think, David, you ought to print some holiday cards and put this smack dab on the front of those. Did you twist the lens? Is this a telephoto that you twisted to get this?
Yeah, this is using the zoom,
Yeah,
long exposure, and then
or to zoom, yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yep,
and
very nice.
yeah, I've used it sort of with an online Christmas thing, but this would work with a fold out, where a lot of them you want to, I had someone that wanted to use it, but then they said, oh, I need it in a horizontal format or landscape. And I said, well, this
No.
won't, make that. But yeah, I had experimented with this several times, and this was the last Christmas walk we did. It wasn't this year, but I think the year before. It's the one year we didn't have snow. Time of year.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Okay. Next is Petals by Alicia Erickson.
Okay. I really like that the petals in the front are in focus and have a lot of detail, and that they softly fall away out of focus. There seems to be some sort of shaft of light that crosses the upper corner, sort of giving everything this soft glow and making the background kind of twinkle. There's an overall softness to the undulating petals, with each one peering out slightly behind the next and kind of moving to the outer edge of the frame. This creates a distinction between the flowers and the background, which I like a lot. And I kept it up on my screen for quite a while, and I walked past it and, not really being up close to it. And at first I thought like maybe I'd crop off some of the sides and get closer to the petal, but then I didn't like that. So I liked it the way it was in the end. So yeah, very nice, really nice. Do you want to add something, Alicia?
Yeah, I agree. Picking the crop on this was kind of difficult. Like I moved it in, I moved it out, I shifted it around, but yeah, I don't know. I just really liked this one. It makes me think of like whipped cream. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna eat the daisies, but they seem so, I don't know, frothy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really nice.
Thank you.
Okay. Roger Kaler's Rustic Storage.
So this is I think just a really well composed image. This barn is off center, and there's the foreground interest of the milkweed and some other, like it looks like a half dead evergreen there. But we've got that draws our eyes in, and I think it's getting on. It's late fall. The leaves are down, and I am, though, after I've looked at this really peaceful image, I am so drawn to that metal roof where we've got that white silvery part with the rusty part, and on a big screen it's really it's very painterly. The image is very painterly, and it just is such peaceful with that gray sky. It's a time of year that I really love. So, overall, a really peaceful image. And I think it portrays strength in that barn, as the title suggests. Is Roger here?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Roger, where is that? It's lovely.
Rags, you might have to unmute him. I think we.
There we go.
Tim would need to. I'm not the host.
Oh, sorry.
So Roger, we can't hear you.
I tried. I can ask him to unmute, but I can't unmute him.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh,
Well, anyway, then.
there he
next up
is.
Okay.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, I had to use my cursor instead of my finger. This is on Church Road, northwest of Central Lake off M88. And I drive by this location and many of the barns in my area frequently, I'll just say. So this I find really interesting. A friend of mine says this is his favorite barn and wanted a picture of it. So I went out and took this and then
Well-
printed it for him.
Nice gift for your friend.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for the kind comments.
Next up is Roger Kaler's Sunset on Torch.
So it's a very nice sunset. I love that you have your perfectly straight horizontal or horizon line and the lovely colors in the sky. I find the clouds really interesting and kind of gives movement through the photograph. And the water is not completely still, but it's still enough so that you can get the reflections of the sun, the setting sun, and the reflections of the clouds in it. And yeah, it's a lovely sunset. I was debating like covering up the stuff in the front, the plants in the front a little bit, only because sometimes it kind of like stops, you kind of stop there and don't go into the photograph a little bit. That was what I was like looking at. But, then it's just a sunset. So that maybe is, you wanted the interest of the foreground in there. So,
I was trying to create a more three-dimensional effect by doing that.
mhm.
Adding a foreground element.
Right.
Very effective.
Mhm.
Yeah, nice.
Thank you.
Okay, and lastly, we have Wait For It by Ellen Hewer.
Okay, Ellen, I'm waiting for it. It could be in the right year, 2 months away before we see this scene. I'm thinking somebody has seen Crocus in early April, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I like spring. And usually around Thanksgiving, I start looking forward to spring. So not to rush things, but anyway, I
Right.
thought I would put something like this in there to add some color.
Probably out the end of your rope waiting right now, but
Yeah. Any
um,
minute,
so the shallow depth of field here really highlights the flower there, the edge of again, I'm looking on a fairly small laptop, so I don't know if everyone sees this as well as I do, but the stigmas are just beautifully in focus, that feathery end, and then on that flower just below it, to the left, below the stigma, those petals are in the same plane and the edges are really sharp. It really just frames that that center of the flower beautifully, and then the side light coming in, highlighting that golden yellow, makes it just glow. So if you were hoping to give us all hope and give us something to look forward to, Alan, you've succeeded. And the background just drops right out. It's beautiful.
yeah, I usually go for the shallow depth with these, but once in a while I'll try and get a little deeper depth. But at this close with a macro lens, you almost have to do some focus stacking to even bring in like the flower on the left. I would have to focus stack all that, probably about a dozen exposures.
Yeah, we don't want that anyway. That one right there is beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mhm.
Well, that's a wrap for this one.
Before we go,
Yep.
Rochelle, that is Buttermilk Falls in Ithaca, New York, that waterfall scene.
Okay,
It's called Buttermilk Falls.
okay.
Okay. Yeah, thanks to everybody. It was a good night, I think. We had some good pictures here. Rochelle and Carol, could you hang in with me just for a minute?
Yep. Yep. And could you remind us next month's, what next month's subject is?
Next month's subject is, just a second.
Still
The
learning.
best of last year.
The best of this, of,
Oh.
21, 22 that you have not submitted already.
Oh, we're
Oh,
already there. We're already at that. Wow.
Are we?
The
mhm.
next
Well, I
one's
trust
July.
Ann. She should know too.
Very good.
Are we not doing like leading lines or something?
Let me
No.
look.
Yes.
Are we? I have to find my copy.
I have a leading line one
Leading
picked out.
leading lines is April.
Okay,
Yeah, that makes sense.
leading lines is April.
And then May's competition.
Right.
Okay. Cool.
So thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
Great critiques. I appreciate it. And Carol, you're very expressive. I can tell you're a career artist.
The sewer.
And Rochelle, you have a great eye. You really see some nice, interesting things as well. So
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it. Very nice
Yeah,
critique.
great
It's an
work.
honor, thank
Great
you.
work, ladies.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Tim, and
Thanks.
everybody.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Night.
Good night.
Good night.
And away they go.
And then we have to stop recording.
Oh, God, yes.
It got us into trouble